Yo yo. So, who has difficulty with procrastination? Who gets scared of taking action? Who else finds themselves, whether it's at school, business, whatever work you're doing, whatever things you're engaged? I mean, who, guys, girls, you're looking to talk to someone, ask someone out. I mean, is there something holding you back? Yeah, most of us, right? Because it's vulnerable, isn't it? Putting yourself out there, giving the world something of yourself. And fear holds us back from a lot of things. A lot of potential gets squandered because we don't give ourselves the opportunity to actually move forward. Ooh, just gave it away. Shoot. Brain hack, right? That's what I promised you. Guys, your amygdala is the what I mean, it's fully formed before you're even born, mind you. The thing that houses the seat of your emotions, right? What produces the fear stimulus in your mind and your body is one of the first things I mean, it's fully formed before you're out of the womb, right? Not one of the first things, it's already there. But we aren't taught how to control it, deal with it, navigate it, how to actually interface with it so that it doesn't necessarily control us. Here's a funny thing about your emotions. They start from back here, right? And so, like, the brain forms when it's forming in the womb, and then throughout your life, it starts from the back and then moves forward. So, your prefrontal cortex right here is one of the last things that gets formed. And this, of course, is the part of the brain that allows for higher functioning, for executive decision making, for being able to focus and pay attention and take action. Okay? So, we want to have this part of the brain, well developed, stimulated. Obviously, not overly stimulated, because an overly stimulated brain, all over, it's probably going to produce some anxiety. We don't want that. It's all about balance. But we want to be able to activate this part of the brain and use it, right? Because it's a tool. And we have to learn how to actually sharpen and hone the tools that we have at our disposal. Okay, I forget if it was Lincoln or someone else. It's the analogy of the axe, right? Do you want to be the guy sharpening his axe day in, day out? So that when it comes time to, like, chop that tree down, you're ready? Or are you going to be the guy who's just waiting for the time to come chop the tree down? Meanwhile, that axe is just rusted and withering away, right? You don't want to start sharpening the axe when it comes time to chop the tree down. You want to be working on that every single day. So, what do? Well, your amygdala. You can actually, believe it or not, shrink that. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I engage in meditation on a day to day. Because meditation actually has been proven to shrink that part of the brain and actually increase gray matter in other parts of the brain that allow for better focus, attention, creativity, more impulse control, more resilience, to external factors, external stimuli. Stress being a big one. It could be physical, mental, emotional, but we want to be able to use and activate the prefrontal cortex and to avoid behaviors that actually deactivate it, right? And we also want to learn how to kind of deactivate the fear response when it's not serving us. Because in a situation where it serves us, by all means, it needs to be there, right? Because if we're getting chased by a lion, if a car is coming at us 110 miles an hour, we need to spring into action. And that's what it's there for, okay? But on a day-to-day where we're just bombarded with small little minor stresses, so those cloud our ability to perform, right? Because we're pulling resources into different parts of the brain, Blood is flowing into our extremities to help us actually run away or fight the oncoming threat. So we have less blood actually going to the brain, into our prefrontal cortex, actually, for that matter. And so, how do we actually So how do we start to change that relationship in the brain? So the goal is, let's not be as reactive, or be reactive in the right time at the right place, in the right way. And let's find ways to actually encourage and promote the development of the prefrontal cortex, right? One of the best things I have found for moving forward with anything is the act of taking action. That seems counterintuitive, but go with me on this. You see, the body, believe it or not, when we move forward, we actually turn off or shut down or minimize the activity of the amygdala. And so when you find yourself kind of stifled when you're taking inaction, not taking action, inaction, you're inactive. Get active. Like actually move the body physically. Like this is why going for a walk, going for a workout, going for a run, uh, it creates momentum. And this is like the crux. This is at the crux of what we're talking about today. Is it's all about momentum, right? And so of course when I say move forward, I'm talking about here in a very physical way. Absolutely do that, but you can also do this in whatever it is that you are kind of holding back on, whatever it is that's producing fear in you. So go with me on this. If you have this big project in mind, if you have something going on at work, or let's say, let's make it a little more practical. Maybe it's just about going off and asking out that so and so. What are micro steps that you can start to take, implement? Like, I mean, take that and break it down into smaller steps and start taking action on this absolute smallest, simplest, easiest one. I mean, I'll give you another example. Let's use fitness, right? I mean, if it's about going to the gym, how about just waking up and doing a single push-up? That's it, right? And you build that in, and you create a kind of momentum with that. And this is what we're talking about. It's about moving forward. And so, if you find yourself hesitating sending that email, don't send it, but write it. Start drafting it, right? And then build on that, add to it day by day, because we tend to really over exaggerate a lot of things in our minds and we blow them way out of proportion. And it's never nearly as bad as we assume it is, but that's just what we're wired for. And so, how do we start to work with our biology, right? How do we start to rewire and repattern the brain so it starts to serve us more, right? Because, mind you, it's always serving us. I mean, the reason why it's wired the way it is because it was there as an evolutionary adaptation. But we live in a very different environment right now, and evolution just hasn't caught up with that because the world's been changing so much, so fast. And so, start taking forward action whenever you find yourself procrastinating or worried or scared. Start taking forward action. And I mean that you can quite literally just go for a walk. Go for a walk. Move the body forward. It kind of shuts down the amygdala, allowing for more resources to come here. Now, I'll give you another one that's really great. Do things that promote the release of oxytocin in the body. Oxytocin, we know, is that fun, feel-good chemical, that hormone that gets produced. When of course it's the bonding hormone. Mothers and babies produce a lot of it because they're bonding, right? But of course, lovers, when they're getting intimate, and that physical touch also allows for the production of oxytocin. But mind you, you can actually also create oxytocin just by focusing and cultivating a sense of love and gratitude within yourself. Because believe it or not, your heart produces oxytocin as well. It's a gland, and what oxytocin does in the body is it, believe it or not, I still believe it or not a couple of times. But I mean, it's just so mind blowing to me sometimes when I learn this stuff. But oxytocin also can shut the amygdala down a little bit, downregulate it. And it can also, when it makes its way through prefrontal cortex, downregulate anxiety. And so when we can also diminish anxiety, we're more clear headed, we're more focused as a result of that. So it makes taking action a little more easier. So those are fun, some fun little hacks, and they're super simple, aren't they? Because like really it's about creating simplicity. It's about learning these things so that way you can start to implement and play with them. And this is of course something that I expand on way more in depth when I'm working with people, because for example when you're doing meditation you can very actively bring visualization in, so that way you're picturing the outcome. You can very actively cultivate those feelings of gratitude and love. So there's a lot of different ways to play and actually create the architecture of your neurobiology. So just a few fun things to start doing. Start taking forward action. Start moving the body if you find yourself procrastinating or holding back or scared to do something. And also start cultivating feelings of love and gratitude, because those are actually going to be very powerful, very supportive. Again, if you go back to one of the previous videos, we talked about heart coherence, right? And that's big. Creating coherence in your heart actually uh, creates a ripple effect where other body systems, including your brain, also find coherence. They sync up and they balance. Okay, and mind you, your body, it'll act before you're even able to think when it comes to emotion and when it comes to fear. Sometimes it doesn't even need to go from back here to here where you can filter it and process it and figure out what to do with it. Sometimes this just sends signals through the body right away. Okay, and suddenly it's producing cortisol and adrenaline, and suddenly you're feeling hot and restless and anxious and tight and constricted. And and sometimes we don't even know why, right? Because the fear could also be a result of something that's way deep down, trauma. So trauma work is huge. It's important to start working on that. But I'm getting way ahead of myself there. Start taking forward action. Start learning to cultivate love and gratitude and build that into your day to day. Do it in the morning, do it in the evening. You could set a timer out throughout the day just to find 5 things to be grateful for in that moment. Start playing with it. With that, guys, have a beautiful day. Wishing you much love. Peace.